Hi.
Yeah,
How's it going?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm hanging in there, just the quarantine life.
Uh, so where are you?
I'm at home in Los Angeles.
Oh, how are things there?
It's good. I mean, it's sunny and 80 today, so I can't complain. But things will get better when the world turns back on, I'm sure. But people are in pretty good spirits, all things considered, and they're taking stuff seriously, and it feels like we're making the right choices.
Yeah? Oh, good. Uh,
Yeah. How about you?
well, here things are a little bit so-so. Uh, there are peaks and valleys. It's hard to convince the older people to stay at home,
Hmm.
and some of the younger people as well. But we're trying.
Yeah.
Yeah, the numbers are rising, but we're doing what we can.
Yeah, it's all you can do right now, right? Just do your
Right?
part.
Any cabin fever yet?
We did we did over the past couple of weeks. But I feel like we've kind of found our group. I'm with my fiance, and we have two dogs, and we have another dog as well who we're fostering, and so we've
Mhm.
kind of found our schedule a bit. I feel like we've kind of finally found a rhythm, now that there's just like I think right now we're supposedly going to have another month of it. So I feel like we finally found like our place and time. And we're lucky enough we live in a beautiful neighborhood. We can walk around outside,
Mhm.
and the good weather is very helpful in keeping us sane.
Be happy, right?
Yeah, absolutely. The sunshine is, I mean, it's what we pay for in LA, right?
So tell me a little bit. Where were you born?
So I was born in the Midwest. So I was born in Kansas. I moved all over the Midwest growing up, several different places. And then I went to college in Missouri, and then I moved to LA right after I graduated. So I've been here like 9 years now, almost 10 years.
Wow.
Yeah, it's been a
Yeah.
minute.
And what are some of your earliest memories of living in Kansas?
Uh, God. Um, I mean, I have an older brother and a younger sister, so everything to do with family stuff.
Hmm.
They're both still, my sister's in Boston and my brother's in Iowa. But they both are, I mean, obviously my earliest memories of like playing with them, and we had a house that is still like in my family these days. So it's
Hmm.
kind of fun because you kind of still see it around. Like I have a family member who still lives there, so it still like exists, which is cool.
Oh.
But I guess like playing with my brothers and sisters, my parents used to send us outside with to dig for treasure, but my mom never wanted us to dig up her garden.
Mhm.
So she would let us dig with spoons so we wouldn't mess up the yard.
So was it a happy childhood?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I'm very, very blessed or privileged or however you want to look at it that I have a really supportive family and a really good family. Yeah, I grew up in a very like loving household, and my parents are awesome, so I'm
You were very close with them.
super happy. Yeah, we talk all the time. They recently moved a little further away. They now live in Kentucky, but
Hmm.
we're pretty close, all things considered, our immediate family at least, because we moved so much growing up that I'm not super close with a lot of extended family. But the immediate family, we are a little tight knit family of five.
And what was your household open to the arts?
Yeah, I mean, we were always doing like crafty stuff. Oh, sorry, there's a police siren outside. We were always doing like crafty things around the house. We would always do like plays and things like that. My sister and I would always put on performances. My dad got sorry, I don't know what that is. My dad got a video camera when we were, I think, like 7 or 8 years old, and it was one of those big chunky cameras,
Hmm.
that put a whole VHS into it.
Yeah, I remember.
You remember those? And so
Yeah.
we used to set it up and just do random dances in front of it. My parents would just watch all the kids dance together. I mean, it was very, is just kind of like fun stuff you do kind of thing as a kid. We were always putting on performances and shows because I had two siblings. There was always enough of us that somebody would watch and somebody else would perform.
Hmm.
And my brother did plays growing up, and then I saw that and I knew I wanted to do them, but everything was very limited. And because it was in a place where the realisticness of being an artist as a career,
Hmm.
everything kind of had a playful nature to it. It was never, it was never set out as like this is like a study type of a thing. It was always just something for fun, you know?
Yeah, a plaything.
Yeah, yeah. It was never like we're gonna practice this for your job or like we're gonna train to be serious actors or something like that. Because that was never, growing up in the Midwest, you just don't really see that as like an option. Of like it's not prevalent around you of something that people do as a living.
Yeah, in my country is the same thing. At least
Really.
when I was born, if you decide to go and be an actor, it was the same as announcing it that you were going to be a prostitute or something. Yeah,
Right. It just seems outlandish, right?
yeah, it's incredible, especially because in my country there was only two channels at the time, so there wasn't much work,
Wow.
yeah, to go around.
So how did you get the confidence to say like this was something you're gonna do?
It was just something that I always loved, and I don't know if it was the same with you, but I watched the TV shows or the movies, and I tried to recreate at home. But
Yeah.
in my case, at least at that time, I was an only child, so we had to develop creative ways to do something to pass the time. So what I would do, I would watch the movies or the TV shows, and then I would recreate them in my room in front of the mirror.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
It just became something so strong that I knew that I had to do it, even though
It's
at that
amazing.
time it was really hard. It's still hard,
Yeah.
but at that time it was really hard because it was so isolated. You didn't know anything about castings or anything. It
Yeah.
such a closed medium that was hard to get in.
Yeah, it's real. I mean, even 10 years ago when I came to LA, it was very much a closed medium. Like I remember when I was much younger and I was a kid, I remember reading a newspaper article about Sabrina the Teenage Witch, the show with
Remember?
oh, what's her name? Oh, it's gonna kill me that I can't remember. Hart? Is that?
It may be, but
Oh, it's gonna kill me. That's got well she was on so many shows, and I remember reading the same newspaper article over and over and over because I couldn't, it didn't say where how she got in her audition. I was like, how do
yeah.
you get into that room? Like that's all I wanted to know is just how do you get, I was like, how does she get to be on a show? She went to an audition. How did she get an audition? Like, how do you do that? So I spent like, I remember probably read that article 10 times. And I was like, where's the information? And the internet was just beginning to be a thing. And I was a kid and I wasn't allowed to like search auditions. Like, that would have been weird. So I just didn't understand like how you even get the opportunities. I feel like there's so much more information now.
Yeah, at the time there was nothing even in the newspapers, and if there
Yeah.
was, it was usually a scam.
Yeah. Yep. Oh my gosh, I went to a lot of those like model calls and stuff when I was younger.
I had one, where I
Yeah.
called and they put me on the line for I think it was 1 hour or two. Then I got the phone bill, and it was a huge charge. Yeah,
No way.
like 200 euros or something. Yeah,
Holy shit.
but they were so good. They convinced you that you were the one they were looking for, and they were gonna make you a star or put you on a show or whatever. And you actually believe it. But at the time,
God.
you kind of were desperate because there weren't many things, castings or whatever that you could go to.
Yeah. Man, I was very lucky that my parents were very protective of those kind of things.
Hmm.
So even when we did, like the Barbizon models, I remember that was something that was like really popular and they would get people signed up for like modeling classes and stuff. But um for one, like if you saw me as a middle school child, like I was no one's model. That was just not happening. So it was very obvious that it was a scam. I was like a very awkward 11, 12-year old, and it was just I'm lucky that they kind of looked out for me in that area.
Yeah, they seemed to, like they were very supportive of you and encouraging with the.
Yeah, they were and they still are.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
And so, did TV or movies had any play at your decision to try and be an actress? Did you
Yeah,
create that stuff?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we grew up watching the Nickelodeon and the Disney, and we were only allowed to watch a certain amount of TV, obviously. But whatever was on TV, I thought was amazing. I never realized that there were so many capacities that you could get into. Like, I never thought of the kids in the commercials as actors. They were just kids in commercials.
Yeah.
Or like the people who do the voiceovers to stuff. So, anytime I saw a movie and I saw especially like a strong female, which was not super prominent when I was growing up, I would always get super excited and I would want to like try and do what they were doing or learn I would try to like memorize the words to the scene. Or I remember when I was obsessed with the Harry Potter books, and they came out right around the same time that I was the same age as Harry Potter. So I remember they did some kind of like, I'm sure it wasn't actually an open casting call, but they announced that they were casting the Harry Potter movies, and they cast them exclusively with British children and actors who'd been working already. But I was like, that's not going to stop me. So I wrote up like a big long letter and attached a Polaroid picture of myself and mailed it in to like I was bound and determined to be in those movies, and it's a bummer it didn't work.
No, they're still doing some. Maybe you could get in the next one.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know. It's all the Fantastic Beast ones now, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But I think they'll probably do once more the play that they're doing,
Oh,
the
the Cursed Child.
the Chris Child. Yeah,
Yeah,
they were doing that one.
I'll hold out hope.
So did you bring whatever artistic qualities you have to school, for instance, and try to do plays there or projects, some kind of yeah.
Yeah, I did in high school. We had a very limited capacity. We did plays in like the Kappa Gymatorium, the multi-purpose spaces. We would often be acting in like after they cleaned up the lunch stuff, drama club would meet after school, and it was very limited in budget and limited in scope of what we could actually do. So we would often
Did
go
they
ahead.
did they have acting classes there?
Not in my high school
Oh,
because I went to I grew up in very small towns, and they had drama club after school,
yeah, that's
but
yeah.
yeah, but I would definitely not call it acting class.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't really learn technique. We just kind of would do a play or sometimes a musical. So I got super involved in that, but there was really not much to do because it was so limited. So I decided to go to college for acting, which is crazy because I had not done very much before I went to college. I just knew that was what I wanted to do, and at first I was going to be an acting teacher, and then I realized that I was just get trying to take all the classes without having to say I was trying to be an actor, which at the time was seemed pretty far-fetched and outlandish.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I ended up switching my major a couple times, but then I did end up getting a fine arts degree in acting. And so that was then, you had to try out for all the plays and all the musicals every year. And weirdly, I did a musical, even though I can't sing. But I had like a very non-singing role in the musical. So yeah, so it started out as just kind of like a hobby. And then I was like, well, there's not really much else I want to do. So like just kind of became what I went to school for. And I was like, well, if I've come this far, I might as well just go all the way, go to Los Angeles.
So you didn't like the those classes, the one that they had at drama club?
They weren't really classes. Like the ones I had in high school, weren't, we just put on a play. Like no one taught you to act, or taught
Yeah.
you techniques or, sorry?
they pretty much in my school, what they do is they gather people there, and then they say, okay, act like you're a flower, and then and they do like medieval stuff. And for me, that wasn't for me. So uh,
Yeah, that's
gotta,
very, I feel like that's old school,
yeah,
like old school drama kids, like be a squirrel. And
yeah.
I took some classes like that in college. Like we had to take, it was a performing arts school, so we did take some Meisner, and I did like there was voice and movement, and there was days where we would pretend to be a squirrel. And I wish that I would have had more on-camera classes. There was
Mhm.
only one in my entire college education, and I wish we would have worked more tightly with the film school because I would have come out to LA with a lot broader knowledge base than what I actually brought out.
So, what was the defining moment for you to decide to be an actress?
I, God, I don't know if there's been one.
Mhm.
I feel like it was just always the thing that I wanted to do that I tried not to do. So it's kind of been the only real thing. I guess moving all the way out to a city that was 2,000 miles away from any friends or family was pretty defining moment. I was kind of going to do something major like that anyway. I was always going to leave my hometowns. I was never meant to live there for a long period of time, I think. And so I think that the big move was a pretty surreal moment in that.
And do you remember where was your love for acting rooted? Was it something that you couldn't live without, or that you felt like you had to do it?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I've tried to, like I said, when I went to college and I was going to be an acting teacher, but then I was like, why wouldn't I get all the experience I could first? And then I realized I was done with the acting classes and had to take teaching classes and was like, I don't want to do that.
Mhm.
So I think realizing that it was the only thing that I actually wanted to do long term. And there's a really fun like expiration on acting jobs that I kind of think I've learned to really love. You never, unless you're in like a long running play, Broadway show, that kind of a thing, acting jobs are really temporary. And so you'll only play the same character unless you're lucky enough to maybe get a long running television show.
Mhm.
You'll only be doing that for a short period of time. So there's kind of something lovely about like doing something and just trying to enjoy it while you have it and then going on to the next thing.
And how did your parents react when you told them that you were going to be an actress?
I mean, once I was going to school for it seriously, they absolutely knew that there was no way I wasn't going to move to a big city. I think when I actually moved to LA, they were sad because I was far away, but because they've been so supportive and they know that they've really put all they could into their kids. They trusted that they created functioning human beings who could go do crazy things on their own. And so they were really trusting of the whole thing. And it's kind of been fun because they've learned what an actor's life is actually like through me. Like my dad will watch TV now and he'll send me a video of a commercial and he'll be like, "How much do you think that guy got paid? How long do you think he was on set for?" Like they kind of get it now. Like they understand that a commercial takes sometimes 5 days to shoot 10 seconds, and that sometimes you make a little bit of money and sometimes you make none, and like how hard it is to get two lines in a TV show. And so they get really excited about callbacks now for me, which is really hard to get excited about someone for, because there's no reward in getting a callback other than just getting more time to do what you love and getting a second meeting.
Mhm.
But they now understand that that's a victory. So just for them to kind of learn about it as I do it with my life it's been really fun. It's more fun when they get it.
Right.
I'm sure you feel the same way with your friends and family.
Yeah, yeah. It's pretty much the same. But
Yeah.
were they fearful of the uncertainty of the profession?
I think because they've always trusted me and I've made pretty good choices most of my life. I don't think so. I've always been really wise about my money and saving versus spending. I've always had other jobs for income. I think after the first year or two, when I knew exactly, not knew exactly, when do you ever know? But when I kind of had a handle on what I was doing,
Yeah.
I think that definitely alleviated some of their concerns because, they'd always be there to help me if I needed it, but I never wanted to ask for help.
And you never did.
I've been pretty lucky.
But did you ever have a plan B or C when you started this?
I told people that I would do other things. I was like, oh, maybe I'll just get into casting. But then I realized that me saying that out loud was actually just uh, me saying that for other people's benefit.
Hmm.
It was never for my own benefit to say I had another plan. Like there was nothing, I actually didn't want to do that. I was just saying it so other people would feel more comfortable that I wasn't maybe going to fail. So, and I think the longer you're in this career, the more you really start to realize that it is just small victory after small victory. Like there's no true like ladder. It's just
Yeah,
like is what it is. And I think you just have to accept that before you really come to terms with what the job is.
right. And were you, when you started doing this, were you interested in doing theater at all, or were you just focused on TV and movies?
Um, I miss theater sometimes. Unfortunately, it doesn't make very much money to live in Los Angeles, and it's a huge time commitment. So it was never quite an option for me because I work so much that I don't have time. I would love to do a play. I just kind of can't. And so when I moved to LA, it was film and television and commercials. That was the main thing. And
Hmm.
voiceovers become a little thing since then. So it's fun how you kind of find your different avenues here. But
Hmm.
I think when I made the choice to come to Los Angeles instead of Chicago or New York, I was very, very understanding that it's a film and television landscape.
Because some people don't like the repetition in theater, and
Yeah, we have
that's
some
why
theater,
they
and
prefer television.
there's some pretty. I mean, sorry, so many sirens today. I mean, there's a couple really good theaters here, but it's just not the prevalent thing, right? It's like 90% of the work is on camera.
Right. So when you started it, how did you feel that you were received in the show business or aspect of things? Did you have her?
I feel like you learn really quickly that you are one of a billion when you come here. I came from small towns, and so I was a little bit bigger of a fish. And I knew I would be coming into a place that had a lot more actors. I don't think I realized how the talent level has to exceed everything else.
Mhm.
Uh, I booked a couple things within the first year of coming here, but it was just dumb luck. I don't think I had any idea what I was doing. I think there was no like pattern in what was happening. I don't think there was uh any like data I could use from that of what I was doing right or what I was doing wrong. So I think I I also came at a different time, right? Like 10 years ago, a 20s Midwestern white girl was a little more of a prominent character than it is right now.
Mhm.
Uh, Obviously, there's always going to be casting, but for my credit level right now, it's a lot of roles. The roles I audition for are ones that they can tailor make. It's, co-stars and guest stars. So they can change it and decide to do a more diverse hire. And that's often the roles that get changed very quickly for this. So I think it's actually shifted in the last couple of years more than it did when I first came to LA.
Did you have any kind of horror stories? Because some actors do when they start out.
There obviously was some times where I realized I was in situations that made no sense. I've definitely been in audition situations that I should have not been in. I've, been to someone's house for an audition. These are kind of things that happen for non-union, I think, more prominently. I think non-union actors often don't have the benefit of things having to be very substantial before you arrive. I've definitely been, oh God, I'm trying to think of some crazy stuff. I mean, I lived in a guest house that was actually a backyard shed for a while, on a futon. That was my own choice. It was very cheap and it was in Hollywood and I could be in the area I wanted to be in and save some money. And, I was like, it's a guest house. It wasn't.
Right.
It was a gardening shed. That is probably the craziest thing that I did. I got involved in some projects at some point where I had directors who were inappropriate, who would not be working today.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I think just navigating also growing up while I learned the industry was a whole different thing because I came here when I was 21, and I was very bright-eyed, like I'd never paid for a parking spot before. So it was all very new to me. So I learned a lot of life lessons while I was figuring out the industry.
Yeah, that would be my next question. What were your best and worst audition stories?
Whew. Um, I mean, definitely had some auditions where my worst is probably just where I've had some bigger ones where I was just completely in my head,
Mm-hmm.
for shows that, I thought were a really, really big deal for my career at the time. And I mean, I remember one for this show, I had a friend on it, and so I thought I would be a shoe-in, and it was a pretty big chunky guest star, and I flubbed the same sentence of a five-page scene probably five times, to the point where the casting director said, "This is the last time we're going to do this."
Oh,
and and then I got in my car and cried. So that's a pretty bad one. You get over it, and obviously, I don't think that casting director will remember that. I think they had, 30 other people come in for that same role. But at the time, I thought it was like the hugest deal.
see,
I'm trying to think of
when
them.
I think about those kind of audition stories, for me, the main thing that I used to think is I wish I knew then what I know now in terms of auditions. But when we were starting out, and I remember one big audition that I had. It was a nationwide casting call for a teen show. It was one of the first castings that I went to, and I think it was a romantic scene. I was supposed to do with a girl of my own age. So you automatically think you're gonna read with a girl of your own age. So
Oh no.
see where this is going. So enter someone that looked like it came from Beetlejuice or Tales of the Crypt.
Oh no.
Have you seen Beetlejuice?
Yes.
You know the old lady that takes them to the underworld.
Yes.
Yeah, it was kind of like that, but worse.
Oh,
And she came smoking into so you start reading with her, and you're taken by surprise, and you don't know what to expect because you were expecting a young girl,
mm-hmm.
and so you start messing up the lines, and okay, so I have to think of something so I can make up some time or something, so they don't know that I don't know the lines. So I said, oh, okay, because I remember in the script, the girl needed to touch my leg or something. So then she touches my leg. So even worse, even
That's
worse.
crazy that
I,
you
yeah,
had a reader who touched you without asking first. That to me is problematic.
yeah.
That's not cool.
So of course I didn't get the job, and then I had another one that was kind of a, I think it was in a mechanical shop that they did the audition. It was also a,
Oh,
yeah, also a nationwide casting call. It was a kind of a talent show where you did recreate something from the movies or any TV show. So I did about Bob. What about Bob? Do you know the
Oh,
movie?
I remember that show. Oh, was it a movie?
Movie with Bill Murray.
Oh God, I must have seen
Uh,
that years ago.
it's Bill Murray and Richard Dreyfuss, and he plays a mental patient, and he starts seeing the psychiatrist, which is Richard Dreyfuss, and then the roles start to inverse, and during the movie, and the psychiatrist starts to become a mental patient, and vice versa. So I did the Richard Dreyfuss role, and I did it great. It was actually one of my best auditions ever. So, but they punished me because I didn't bring along someone to do it with me, which is, yeah.
Oh,
Even though,
that's a that's a very unique experience, I think.
even though they were teaming people at the auditions to do stuff, but because I didn't know anybody, so I got punished for it. And then they, I
So
think
weird.
later, I I'm I was at the newsstand, and the casting lady actually remembered me, passed it along, and said, "Hey, you were great, and don't give up. You were one of the best auditions we had." Indeed,
Wow.
yeah. So, but you were telling me some of your best or worst.
Uh, you know, it's so hard because they're all just
It can be a
sometimes some of the ones that some auditions I've had that I thought were absolutely horrible, I've booked. I've had, often in commercials, you're put in group auditions, and it's kind of nerve-wracking because you really have to be reliant upon your group to make good choices and everyone to let everyone else do a good job. And it's not always the case. And I had a girl in a group audition once just couldn't stop. They asked her to stop referring to people that weren't in the room and just talk to the two of us next to her, and she couldn't stop doing it. So we kind of thought that the whole thing was, you know, we both walked out, me and the other girl who were with her, and we're like that did not go well. And then I ended up booking it, and it was a national commercial. So it's crazy what you think could reflect badly on you that sometimes turns out well. I had one for a movie where I'm often not always the nicest person when I play roles, and I auditioned to be kind of the head, this basically the head of a sorority, and I did not prepare properly for my callback, and I thought I already knew everything that I had to know.
Mhm.
And I got in front of the casting, and it turned out they had had separate lines than me. I did not have the most recent script, and they had given us different lines for the callback. And so I spent the first probably 30 to 40 seconds, which feels short, but is a very long time, just staring at my reader, waiting for her to start the scene. And I was actually supposed to start the scene. But I just decided once I started staring at her, I was just like, just wait. And I just
Right.
stayed in character for it. And I ended up booking it. And they said it was awesome because I looked like such a bitch. It's just because I messed up because I didn't have the right sides. So, what are you going to do? You just got to roll with it, right?
Right. But what is your take on auditions at all?
How so? What do you mean?
Because I remember in my days, at least when I started, what I usually saw was that, for someone like me that really loved the business, or really needed this, or really wanted to do this, we had so much on the line that we went to the auditions and kind of were so nervous, and lost it all. While other people who came from other lines of work, but was they could have done this or could have done another thing the next week, but so they didn't have anything on the line, so they went there and with so much confidence, and they won it. And they didn't have talent, or they didn't want to work, they just wanted to be on TV. I
I
actually had
mean,
this conversation with an actress from the golden days, and I told her about this, and she said that in her day things weren't like that. They didn't do that kind of auditions, and they put people at ease. That they didn't send her to a room so nervous that they lost all sense of control about their craft or wherever. So
You know, I would say the more casting directors I get to meet and to know, the more I realize that on the whole, they really are, in the time and constraints and budget they have, control the audition room. And majority of them are actually phenomenal. You know, they're actually the best casting directors are the ones who make you feel like you're just stopping by to work with them, not for them, which I think is a huge thing. And what you said about the people who would often get the jobs just seem like they didn't care. I I feel like there's this unspoken confidence that that's the kind of person you almost want on a set. Not that they don't care, but you just want someone who's going to be easy, right? Like I did a podcast recently with a friend of mine named Matthew Solomon, and he talked about how, the way he's gotten so many jobs is just being cool and easy to hang around with.
hmm
There's just something about being someone you're not going to be anxious, you're not going to be nervous. You can hop onto a set and sit quietly in your makeup chair and like do your job when you're asked to and not require a bunch of things. That kind of energy really attracts people, and I think that it feels like it's like this laissez-faire, don't care kind of attitude, but it's really just the attitude to me of like a working actor. Like, yes, be excited to be in an audition, be excited to be on a set. You can still be nervous, but that can't be your like number one energy you're giving off because it makes other people uncomfortable.
right.
So learning to tap down on that and utilize that actually has been really helpful to me. That this is not like most of the roles I'm going out for, 99% of them are by far very down the call sheet. Like they are not the roles that need the attention. They need someone who can come in and work well and smoothly and get along with others. And that's kind of what I've learned to bring into auditions as well. Just do your job, do it well, and do your version of it. And if it's not working, then it's not working.
Because there are
Also, having audition coaches has made a huge difference.
because there are other processes. For instance, for me, when I do something, a project of mine that I write or develop, and one of the things that I do when I cast other people is I like to talk to them, to get to know their voices, to see their strengths and their weaknesses as both as people and actors. For instance, hearing you, one of the things that I can see is you have so much personality and you're funny, and so if I were to write something for you, it would be tailor made to your personality, and I think it would be great as a in something in comedy in a movie or a show, but put you at the forefront
Thanks.
of personality, right? Uh,
Thanks, dude.
because I'm getting to know you, and I see your voice, and just this morning I was listening to your podcast, and so I was assimilating all the things about you that I could feel I could bring to a show or something that I could develop, and that's my process when I cast people. But
Yeah. I mean, that's amazing. Don't you wish that like everyone had that kind of time to put together a project? It would be amazing.
right, because it puts people at ease.
Mhm.
We're just talking, and I'm getting to know you, and I'm getting to see what are your strengths and how do you react in certain situations, or and I can fill a notebook with all that stuff, and create from them. From
Yeah.
yeah, I think putting people in that situation sometimes, at least when I started, it was kind of a horror show. Now I think
Yeah.
there are other processes and people are getting better at that.
Yeah, and I think the unfortunate part is that the general meeting has
hmm
kind of died because we have such short timelines, such short budgetary restrictions, I guess you could say, on everything, which is kind of the fun part about a lot of casting directors are doing open calls right now and things like that. But what you're talking about is basically like a general meeting, right? It's like, let's get to know each other. And then when I see something that's right for you, I'll already know it.
Exactly.
And that's why I think actors should focus a lot more on their networking without trying to network, because it's I've gotten recommendations to people in the weirdest ways just because we had a conversation and not because I was trying to seem like some cool actor around them, or I was trying to like show off my skills, or like that has gotten me zero places.
I mean,
But just hanging out and being cool, I'll accidentally meet someone who wants me to come for a table or something like that. And I think that's really what people should focus on instead, because that's where you get longevity in casting, and not just the kind of castings where you had bad, a bad situation or an unfortunate room.
it goes back to also to kind of a method where you're not creating a character, but you're doing a version of yourself. Mm, do you prefer that method? I actually.
I mean, I don't think I've ever auditioned for anything where I haven't been playing a version of myself.
Mhm.
I think that's pretty universally true about most actors who are in my credit range. I think
Mhm.
most people who are in the co-star guest star range, you're mostly going to book things that are already you. Because I'm also not a character actor, and so I don't do super silly stuff, and no one looks at me and hires me to be like the weird one. At
Yeah.
least not yet. I'd love that. But I think that most of the time early on in this career, you are cast in those kind of roles where it's your type. Like I said, I've never really, played like a cleaner version, a slightly dirtier, different levels of different parts of myself, but I've never been asked to be something that I'm not. I think it would be a blast. I would love that. I would love to be something so far out of my own reach. But that's not really been something that I have been asked to do yet in my career. I think it takes a longevity of a career before people trust you enough to really go outside of your box.
Right. Because when you're trying to show off your skills, you're usually doing a character or something, and you usually fail when you're trying to impress someone like that. But if you're talking like we are at this moment, I can see so many parts of your personality that I can bring to a project. So including
Cool. Sorry.
including the weird one, being the yeah, I can see it.
Cool. Listen, I think everyone should try to stop impressing people, because as soon as I stop doing that, stuff got a little easier.
And how about the rejection part of the business? How do you deal with that?
I mean, it sucks, but it's most of the business. At least for me, I think people have different ways they deal with things. You just, you kind of gotta accept it. I mean, I had to realize that that's the job, right? Like you lose more jobs than you get. So if you're not willing to figure out a way to just handle rejection, then it's not really the job for you. It gets easier. Also, it's not really rejection as it is just like a silent forgotten,
Hmm.
because no one, unless you're really close to being in the running for something, no one calls you and tells you you don't get something.
Right.
Uh, and so I don't feel, I very rarely feel rejected, because I feel as though I feel as though I just am not right for something, or someone fits better than I do. And half the time that's not even the case, because, someone's sister's daughter's best friend fits too. So I think you can't take it personally. Any sort of rejection you feel is just, it's really not about you. It really isn't. And I wish I would have learned that a lot earlier, because I would have
That
probably like
part too.
done less dumb things like cut bangs and stuff.
But we see so many of our brothers and sisters. They are so broken inside because of they didn't get that call back or that job or and because they
Yeah.
so much and they want to make a living out of this and it's very hard. I've seen it firsthand. So many people like that, and even so many stories that you feel like heartbroken, especially in the theater and in the future, especially when you go to some of those schools where it seems like you have to be like they want you to be, and if you aren't, you kind of they break you, and or they cut you out. And I've seen so many people. I remember a girl that oh, she was so great. She was a great theater actress, but and she did an incredible monologue while she was trying to get in a conservatory. I don't know if
Hmm.
you have those there.
There are some, yeah.
Yeah, she was trying to get in. She did this amazing monologue where you didn't know where the truth was, or if she was really talking to the judges, or if she was just acting. And I later learned that she was kicked out by her family because she wanted to be an actress. So this was her only shot to get a place and get something going. And
Yeah.
and eventually they kicked her out to and on the school, and she didn't make it.
See, that's a bummer to me because it's I'm lucky that I've had a lot of support, but I've also searched out that support and I've gotten kind of rid of people that didn't,
Hmm.
not gotten rid of, but I just had to lessen the ideas of anyone who didn't support me, who didn't support what I wanted to do in the long run. And it's really such a long game that like I got rejected from the first school I tried to go to too. And obviously that I was lucky enough that my family didn't, you know, stop speaking with me, or I haven't had family issues because of my career choices. So I can't imagine how hard that would be. But I do think that if you have to, this is the worst term of this, but you have to eat a lot of shit in this business to get through. And if you're not willing to continuously like go through the same pain, then I don't think it's the business for you.
Hmm.
Harsh truths. Maybe we should end on something lighter.
Yeah. So, were there any parts that you felt were perfect for you, but you didn't get it?
For sure. God, so many. I
Yeah.
think most of the auditions I get, I'm perfect for, but that's just me. I convince myself that I'm really, really perfect for everything. But then I've seen things cast where I see the final product. I'm like, wow, that was not what I did at all. I was way different. Or, there's been a few things, a few bigger roles that I auditioned for. And I think it was just them being a kind person to let me audition for them. And I was not right for, like, I've had roles that I auditioned for that men ended up getting, that they have made into completely separate characters. And that's why you can't get heartbroken, is because you never know what the final decision actually was about.
Hmm.
But yeah, there have been a ton of roles where I was like, I think this is the one. It's never the one. But even if it is the one, right? Like that only lasts for such a short period of time that you just have to be okay with that short period of time either being 5 minutes in a room or like, uh, you know, 5 weeks on a set. Like either way, you kind of have to be okay with both of those sufficing for you.
And tell me a little bit about this movie you got coming forth as Followed.
Oh yeah, yeah. So I filmed this movie years ago,
Hmm.
um, and so it's just now finally coming out, which is cool. But it's about a vlogging crew who makes scary YouTube videos, and it's actually based on the true story of the Cecil Hotel, which is in downtown Los Angeles, where it was said to be haunted, and that a lot of murderers stayed there. And there was a woman who died there, and she died in the water tank on top of the building. So it's kind of like a crazy true story that it's based on. But we filmed that, yeah, like I said, about 4 years ago, and it was said to come out in theaters April 10th. Obviously, that didn't happen because the theaters are closed. But I think it's going to be set for the end of summer now. It's super fun. We had a great time filming it. It was one of the first movies I did when I joined the union. And so that was a real privilege. The writer was on set with us and he'd change lines on the fly if something wasn't working. Like it was a very unique experience. And
Seems like a
um,
story.
And it was super fun, and I'm really proud of that film. So I'm super excited for people to actually get to see it
Can't wait to
at
see.
some point.
So, and you were a producer as well? Did you produce some shorts or?
No,
Oh no, okay. So,
no, I know nothing about that.
okay, so my
No,
homework.
I'm just an actor. I'm a one trick pony. This is the one thing I can do.
You do a blog.
Yes, so I write One Broke Actress, which is a website, and that was originated the podcast, talking to people in and around the business, kind of about what it's really about, what it's actually like, how you actually got your first manager or auditions, all the stuff I was looking for in that Melissa Joan Hart article many years ago. Now I want to tell people about it in a podcast form.
That's such a great idea, and I think it's
Thanks.
a very helpful podcast.
Thank you.
Love
That
hearing-
makes me happy. I'm
and
excited that it expands outside of the country too. That's cool.
cool. It's now on the fifth season, right?
Yes, it just finished 5, and we might do the 6th season just entirely over Zoom since I have some time. I might
Oh,
just start working on it now.
yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
So, for the final two questions, how do you see the future for actors going forth now? Do you think this will be over in the summer? Do you think
Oh boy.
see it
I
for theater? It's gonna be very hard.
Yeah, I can't imagine the theater space because that just fully relies on people showing up somewhere, someone purchasing tickets to go
The
somewhere.
best will remain.
So yeah, I think that people will come out of this wanting to go to things. I just don't know. I think the rollout of how we go from 0 to 60 again is going to be very slow. I think people are going to be cautious as much as they are excited about getting out of their own homes. It's going to be interesting. In terms of film and television casting, once kind of LA gets back going, from what I'm interpreting from people, is that a lot of shows are going to need to pick up really quickly.
Right.
And so I'm hearing that there's going to be a massive wave of casting, which sounds great. I think that would be awesome. I
Yeah.
do think that what we're doing right now, with the learning to do self tapes at home better, or auditioning online, I think if you know the site We Audition, they've been doing it for years, putting people online for rehearsal formats and for auditions and things like that. I think that that actually might stick around. I don't think that the generals and the things, the open casting calls will stick around, which I think is unfortunate. But I do think that there's going to be a lot more online casting in the next year or so, especially if, depending on how this goes, like if the virus peaks or comes back, or comes back again. I read Deadline did a great article about the Spanish flu and how that informed Hollywood in the early 1900s, and how that changed the game for them, and actually basically created the studio system because they're the only people who had money left. So I'm just hoping that all the funds that are coming in right now are also going to people who are going to still make indie movies and stuff, because that would be a lot of a lot of actors' bread and butter, which would be unfortunate to lose that.
Right. That's a great sentiment. And how do you want to be remembered?
Oh God, that's such a hard question. Like, as an actor, as a person, like, how deep do you want this to be?
Both, both.
Oh God. Uh, that's really hard. Um, I guess I mean, obviously everyone wants to help other people. I hope that what I'm doing now is setting myself up for a career of doing my best work while also helping other people along the way.
Right.
Of course, I would love to be remembered as like someone, making someone laugh, someone smile, like bringing something good to people. And also, if I could help other actors not feel so scared and alone all the time, that was kind of the impetus of One Broke Actress. uh, that would be a huge goal I have. And, just to be a good person in this business, which is not always prominent.
Exactly. So Sam, I love this time with you. It was so special. One of the best interviews that I did. And you're such an inspiring person, a great person, and very talented, and very funny. And I wish you all the best. You deserve it all.
Wow, that was so kind. Thank you so much. Thanks for giving people a platform to talk, man. It's a crazy time, so we need all of it, right?
So see you soon.
All right.
Bye bye.
All right. Take care, man. Bye.